Welcome, everybody, into another edition of Warm Weather Fans, the Sunbelt podcast. We once again have a full house here. It is Brian Stone, your host, joined once again by Matt Miguez and Zeke Palermo. Guys, it's good to have you all here. We are gathered here to talk about Zeke's favorite football team, the Texas State Bobcats. Zeke, 12 wins this year? 13?
Not
Are they
quite.
playing? Are they playing Ohio State for the national championship?
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Matt for being here. I know we're cutting into his Hall of Fame game time. So we thank you for taking the time away, Matt, for joining us. Texas State, fool me once. You're also on the way out. Obviously, that's a big probably the biggest storyline around Texas State this year is just that they are not going to be in the Sun Belt next year as they transfer out to the Mountain West. Yes,
Pac-12.
not the Pac.
They're going to the Pac-12.
Yeah, they're in the Pac-12.
Okay, I didn't think they had. I didn't think they were Pac-12 quality.
Yeah, no one does. That's the funny part.
So that's obviously the storyline. But fool me once on the Bobcats. I think they are the best of the rest in a relatively weak Western division.
Whoa! We don't
rest of the rest.
We don't need to throw the weak word around. That's
Troy, ULM.
That's not nice.
South Al.
Arkansas State.
Say it's average. Don't say weak.
There's like a 50-50 chance Southern Miss goes like 5-7.
I would love that. I would love that.
I'm optimistic on that team, but there's like a 50-50 chance. So no, I'm not buying the hype this year.
Well,
Matt.
It's good to see that Zeke grew up. We love that. Because God, you were gung ho on them going 12-0 and making the playoff. What a pipe dream that was. Anyways, doing good over here, getting prepared to teach the youth of America. And by the way, as you see the Cajun script hat that I wear often on this show, check out the new turf at Cajun Field if you haven't yet, because it is spicy.
Looks sick.
It is spicy. Yeah, man, ready to talk about these Texas State Bobcats one last time. Never have to talk about them again. And good riddance. Goodbye. Don't send a postcard.
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord.
The good Lord split you. See
ya. Before we jump in, Matt, I actually did just. I'm gonna confess here, every once in a while, if I'm feeling bad or whatever, I will go back and listen to last year's Texas State preview, just because like that level of confidence that someone could have in a team has no defense and just be like, doesn't matter, they're gonna score 45. Okay.
And not only that, not only having that level of confidence in a team that didn't have a defense, but a team that had never done it before. Like Zeke, Texas State last year was the equivalent of the freshman that got invited to the junior party. Like he didn't even.
That's not true.
Oh, it's 100% true.
He was 8-5 the year before.
He had just made it into the. That's what I'm saying. He was the freshman that just finally got asked to the party. Like, okay, now you're here. Do something about it. And guess what? They flopped.
He was the Texas State last year was the sophomore baseball player who showed up with a new bat, like the new carbon fiber whatever bat,
and projected to, and then proceeded to strike out 5 times.
He hit 156 for the season.
He was still hitting home runs, but he was hitting home runs every time he
hit a single home run.
He made contact and he was hitting home runs, but he was striking out.
He hit line drives to the shortstop.
There were a lot of 0 for days.
Line drives to the shortstop every time.
Yeah,
Texas State was garbage last year.
So those who don't 100% know what we're talking about, or you're just listening for the first time, Zeke projected Texas State last season with Jordan McLeod and all of those guys they had. Joey Hobart, who was it? Who was the running Ismail Mahdi?
Ishmael Mahdi.
And he projected them to not only win the Sun Belt, but to go on to the college football playoff as the representative from the G5. I think you said 2 losses max was what your proclamation was. And then, well, actually, let's go ahead and jump into it. So their defense was not good. Their lone good defender, Ben Bell, transfers out after like 4 games. And so
I don't even think he made it that long.
Yeah, I can't remember how many, 3-4 games, something like that. I think it was right after Sam Houston was the game that he just pieced out. I think I can't remember 100%, but basically what was a bad defense got even worse because they dropped one of their pass rushers. There were weird like injury issues back and forth with McLeod. There would be games where he would play and get concussed or have a shoulder injury, and then they'd have to put in like RJ Martinez. They were sprinkling in this guy Brad Jackson, who still maintains his freshman eligibility because he played in fewer than 4 games per the rules. They just never put it together. They dropped games inexplicably, Georgia State being a primary one that I remember off the top of my head that I was like, what are we doing here? So yeah, that team is now 1 season away from going out to the Pac-12. The way they played last year is not going to cut it in the Pac-12. Sorry to tell you all that. So let's start here. So Zeke, I'm done with the ribbing, but what is your overall kind of take on this year's Texas State team? Where do you kind of have them slotted in?
As I said at the top, I think they are the second, or depending on what we get out of Southern Miss, could be 3rd best team in a relatively weak West. Matt, that is not to disparage the team at the top in Louisiana, but rather to disparage everyone else. I think this team finishes with 6 to 7 wins by nature of having ULM on the schedule and by nature of having Troy on the schedule. They get a pretty difficult out-of-division pull in James Madison, but they get also one of the easier out-of-division pulls in Marshall. So this is a team that I think will be in the race for the West, but probably pretty clearly not make it. But because just by nature of someone has to win those games, Texas State will pretty comfortably be in that race.
Matt, what do you kind of foresee for the Bobcats and their final Alamo of the Sun Belt season that they have coming up?
I don't like this roster. I'm just gonna be point blank. I'm looking at their quarterback roster. Keldrick Luster, a redshirt sophomore transfer from SMU. Brad Jackson was on the team last year. You have an Auburn transfer, and then you have a redshirt senior transfer from Pitt who came back home. He's an Austin kid. Came back home. Nate Yarnell. Who's gonna be the quarterback? Does it really matter? I don't think so. I mean, look, I have this attitude towards Texas State because of their fan base. So let me put my journalist hat on. Do I think Texas State is going to be god awful in 2025? No, I don't. Do I think that they take a big step back from not a great year last year? Yeah, I do. I think they're hanging around 500 here in 2025, and that's not going to be a great look on your way out to the Pac-12. Granted, the Pac-12 is not the conference that it once was, right? This isn't Oregon and USC, but it is still considered the 5th P5 conference.
Is it? Do they retain that status though? Considering like the conference is totally
I guess
different?
technically not. It's technically part of the group of 6, if you will, but it's a step up in conference, right? Sport wide, the media deal is going to be bigger. Your school payout's going to be bigger, so the expectations are going to be bigger. And I just hope for Bobcat fans' sake that your administration and your football staff know what they're getting into, because we make this joke all the time. Texas State has not provided anything to the Sun Belt in their 11, 12 years of being here. Do we really think it's going to be different when they move up in conference? Enough negative talk. They've got some talent, at a couple of different spots. But their lack of quarterback, knowledge, I guess, us not really knowing who the guy's going to be or anything about who the guy's going to be, it is a major concern for me going into this season.
Yeah, this is a big step down from TJ Finley and Jordan McLeod.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know that there's like a nicer way to put it. Like Matt said, you've got a 5'10" SMU transfer who, as Phil Steele slates in as the starting quarterback as of today, you've got, like he said, Jackson, who played sparingly last year, but more of in like a gadget, I run wildcat style, like read option stuff, didn't throw the ball hardly at all. And then you've got these other 2 transfers, and it's like, realistically, do I think Holden Garner is any good? No, because I saw him play at Auburn, and I was good off that. So I don't know who Nate Yamil is. So there's that. I think it'll be very interesting to see what they do. They only return 5 starters on the whole team from last year. So, you're basically starting over as like a football team and just trying to like kind of piece together who's going to play quarterback, who's going to be our big contributors offensively. Heck, who's going to be any of our contributors on defense? Because that was a real sore spot last year, and we'll get into the defense here in a minute. So, as we talked about, you do lose, what was his name? Ismail Mahdi, who was huge for them. I believe he had 1,100 yards rushing last season.
Yep.
He was great. I mean, Lincoln Pear, God rest him, God help him, cannot lock down a starting gig in the Sun Belt. I don't know if he crossed a witch at some point in his life.
And also, it's like
I don't
his
know what
8th
happened.
year in the conference.
That's what I'm saying, though, is like he goes to Arkansas State, and I don't know that he ever secured fully the starting job. Then he comes here, he gets passed over for Mahdi, and now, at least if you're to believe Phil Steele's depth chart, he's getting passed over by UNLV transfer named Greg Burrell. So yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if he like broke 100 mirrors like all in one go, but he's got some bad luck. Zeke, do you think? I mean, I guess the answer has to be yes by default, because frankly, we don't know what the quarterback room passing game is going to look like. Do you think that this offense is going to have to run through its running backs just to function, or do you think they're going to be able to like sling the ball the way that they did with Finley and McLeod?
I think at the moment, yes, but something that I think can't go understated was GJ Kinne's ability to rebuild this team and roster when he took it over from Jake Spavital. I guess it would be 2 years ago, going into the 2023 season. Because Jake Spavital notoriously refused to recruit high school kids and had a very, very poor time at Texas State. 8 5, 13 wins over 4 years at Texas State. And the very next year, GJ Kinne brought in a bunch of guys, some of them his own from Incarnate Word, but most of them not, brought in pieces from other places, and turned this into a very good 8-win team. And so I have more faith in this team's ability, in GJ Kinne's ability to identify transfer talent that is otherwise untested at FBS or inexperienced at FBS, as opposed to other teams in the conference. I was very harsh on Old Dominion and Ricky Ronnie's ability to do that, because I don't feel like we've seen a track record of him being able to identify guys that really are underlooked or just are getting passed up at bigger schools. We've seen that from GJ Kinne. We saw his ability to recruit Jordan McLeod over instead of whether he had the opportunity to go to Indiana or didn't. Jordan McLeod could have gone P5 very, very easily last season, but Kinne got him in. And so I feel incredibly optimistic in their ability to have identified guys that will be a competent quarterback, one of these guys, in the running backs to surround Lincoln Pear, who was already there, replace the 2 or 3 wide receivers in Joey Hobart and Jaden Williams, who were each exceptional, and Hobart's been very good for a while now. So I think as it stands right now, on paper, there's not a ton here. But if we get to week 4 and week 5, and again, I'm not super bullish on this team's long-term success, or I guess over the course of the season, but I think this could be a more talented team than it appears in this exact moment.
Here's my problem with that thought.
Yeah.
I will give you his first year. He came in under some pretty wild circumstances, put together a really good roster. They went 8-5.
Mm-hmm.
And then that first full off season, he puts together an even better roster with Jordan McLeod and a handful of other really talented players. And they win 8-5 again.
So that's the coaching ceiling. But I don't think that speaks any to talent identification or ability to restock this team with 500 or plus 500.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But if you're a Texas State fan, where's the optimism coming from? Like what are you optimistic about? Oh, we're going to go 8-5 for the 3rd year in a row. Granted, that's something that Texas State as an FBS program has yet to do. Mm-hmm. So, if that's what your goal for the year is, then great. Good for you. That's awesome. But, again, 8-5 year 1, you put together an even better roster. I mean, Zeke, you had this team going to the college football playoff last year.
I did.
For them to go 8-5 is a massive disappointment.
Can I ask you guys a question, Zeke, before you get into what you were going to say? Okay. So the first 2 years under Kinne, they go 8-5. Each of those years, they averaged over 36 points per game. Looking at this offense as it sits today, and we'll get into the rest of the skill positions here shortly, do we think this offense is going to average 36 points per game? And if not, they're probably going to be worse than 8-5.
Sure.
The fact that you averaged 36 points a game in the Sun Belt, and look, I don't say that to knock the Sun Belt, but let's be realistic. If you're scoring 36 points a game in the Sun Belt, you should be heavily in the conversation for a conference title. And they lost 5 games both times. I'm not saying GJ Kinne's a bad coach, but if I'm a Texas State fan, I'm not super optimistic at what I'm looking at for 2025. I'm just not.
Yeah. Matt, let me do you one better real quick. Sorry, Zeke, to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I'll be done right after this. Matt, let me put it in perspective. Last year, they allowed 36, or they scored 36.5 points per game. They only allowed 24.5, and they went 8-5, the same record they had as the year before when they allowed 32 points per game. Yeah. So it seems to not matter. It's like everything stays, like the defense can change, Everything else stays just the same.
And the roster got glaringly worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring up this is not to speak to record, but to the defense. Last year, they did return 8 defensive starters. This year, that number is 2. So that's a stark difference. But 24.5 points a game, that is not like the horrific Arkansas State type numbers that I feel like, Matt, you were kind of alluding to. Obviously, this number is artificially deflated by allowing maybe artificially is a little too harsh, but definitely deflated significantly by holding Southern Miss to 3 points, by holding Arkansas State to 9. But conversely, it's also extremely inflated by 52 points allowed to Georgia State. That is not what this defense was typically doing. Same thing was 40 against Sam Houston. Most weeks they weren't allowing more than 5 touchdowns. So I think I refute this idea that we're looking at a Arkansas State level defense. But again, that hinges on a admittedly very thin assumption that GJ Kinne has identified talent to replace the 9 other guys that are not returning starters. I recognize that hinges on a really big assumption. But as I said, especially as compared to other teams in this conference that I feel really strongly have proven not just unable, but incompetent in doing that. I think GJ Kinne has the best track record, at least in recent history, of restocking this team.
So let's go ahead and break into the pass catcher spot. So quarterback seems like it's a big who knows. Frankly, none of these guys have played significant snaps at the college level, so we'll see who ultimately wins the job week 1. But you return, basically one starter and one guy who played sparingly last year in kind of a rotational role. You get Chris Dawn back, who's 5'7", 170. He had 418 yards last year in 13 games. And then Bo Sparks played in 13 games last year and had 271 yards. Again, would I want my number 1 receiver to be 5'7", 170 ideally? Not really. But they're we recorded our Georgia Southern episode, and it's like I talked about how they run Josh Dallas out of the slot a lot. I think it really doesn't matter because Chris Dawn can run the majority of his routes from the slot. I mean, Texas State really likes to spread it out, so I think that's totally fine. However, is Bo Sparks going to be able to step up? Is Maven Anderson going to be able to step up? Like, all of these guys are kind of question marks for me. They get Tequelin Mims over from Southern Miss, which is not exactly 2024. Southern Miss wasn't a team that I wanted to pilfer from last year, just talent wise. So what do we kind of expect from the pass catchers to help out this glut of quarterbacks who we don't really know who's going to emerge?
One of these guys is obviously going to have to step up and become a number 1 type guy. But even as you said, Brian, this team spreads it out and does pretty fine without like a really, really elite, super, super high volume guy. Joey Hobart last year led the team in receptions with 70 yards. Jaden Williams led the team in receiving yards with 800, but did so on only 57 catches. So this is an offense that's fairly comfortable letting it, instead of it being guy 1 and everyone else, there being a handful of 400 to 500 to 600 type yard receivers. However, that obviously hinges on a guy like a Hobart or a Williams who can either make 70 catches over the course of the year, get open that many times, or in the case of Jaden Williams, can do far more than what his receiving, like actual catch numbers would indicate. So it's a matter of who is going to step up. But from a depth perspective, I feel good, not great, but like good enough with this group.
I agree with you in theory about the having kind of a group of guys that all contribute. But Matt, let me throw it to you with this question. So we're talking about trying to replicate what they did offensively the last 2 years where they averaged 36 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Texas State had 3 receivers that had over 600 yards, including, again, Jaden Williams led the team with 807 yards. Do we anticipate that they're going to put up those kind of numbers again, especially with the uncertainty at the quarterback spot?
No, I don't anticipate that at all. And if any guy that I see on the roster is going to do that, it is Ty Mims from Southern Miss. He is a dynamic playmaker at 5'9", 179 pounds. But you talked about Chris Dawn. He's 5'7". You can be a dynamic playmaker. 5'7" at wide receiver is not a recipe for success. Like it's just not. You've got Kylan Evans, who's 6'2". He's a sophomore. You've got a couple of 6-footers, but there's really not a whole lot of size to this wide receiver room, which is a concern for me. Because in this era of, possession wide receivers kind of starting to win out in a good mix of possession receivers and deep threats. I don't feel confident that you have a good, middle of the field possession guy. You probably got a lot of deep ball guys, but again, if you don't have a quarterback that can get it down there, then you might not have the opportunity to showcase that talent. You've got a lot of receivers. So from a depth perspective, there's definitely options, but I just don't know anything about these guys other than Ty Mims. Do I think that he's getting 800 yards this year? Probably not. But I mean, he's a Ty Mims. If he stays healthy, he's a 500-600 yard receiver for this team.
I do want to point to Tyron Smith, who is now granted, I guess it would be 2 full seasons removed from this. Transfers in from Cincinnati, but before that was at UTEP, where in 2022 had over 1,000 yards on 70 catches. The year after, he only played 4 games. I'm stumbling here. I would assume that's injury. And then in Cincinnati, did not really do much there. But that's a guy right there that's proven to be a wide receiver one type guy from volume and from yardage. Matt, you're not going to like this. He's 5'7".
It's crazy that 3 receiver sets could all be 5'7" in theory. You could have Mims, Smith, and Dawn all on the field at the same time.
That's a very short group. Hopefully they don't ask that group to do a lot of pass blocking or run blocking rather. But I think, like I said, I think there's certainly between Sparks, between Dawn, who were both pretty good last year in this offense, and then Tyron Smith, again, he's 2 years now removed from it, but is proven to be wide receiver one worthy. There is someone here that is capable of drawing enough attention to help his team elevate his teammates from 300-yard guys to 550 guys. Maybe not 6, maybe not 7, but 550 type guys or 500 type guys.
So is it fair to say there's not going to be a lot of jump balls thrown in San Marcos this season?
No goal line fades. They're kind of screwed like Hail Marys. You might as well just kneel it out at that point.
A lot of jet touch pass.
What if one of the receivers put another one on his shoulders and then they caught it that way, like they ran a Hail Mary play like that,
like
way.
A game of chicken,
or like two kids in a trench coat, like trying to sneak into an R-rated movie.
At 5'7", with the height you're losing by kind of sitting because you lose your legs there, there's still probably a defensive back taller than that.
I disagree. I disagree. If a 5'9" guy puts a 5'7" kid on his shoulders, even if you lose the height for the weight differential, you're still looking at a 7-footer right there. Like,
yeah, but he's running a 7.8 40.
That's true. If that.
That's true. if that, right?
If that. It's really hard to run with a guy your exact size on your shoulders. All right. So as tends to usually be the case, well, actually, no. So they lose their tight end from last year. They bring over a transfer from 2 years ago at Oklahoma, Blake Smith, who didn't play last year. Matt, I don't know if you know anything about Ty Stamey, who played last year sparingly at Louisiana. He's another tight end option. In theory, I think this defense is going to take a step back. So in theory, I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more, just because, running the ball last year with like Mahdi and Pear was a little bit of a luxury, and frankly, I don't know that they're going to be afforded kind of the same luxury with the defensive play that they had last year, Matt.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out. Ty Stamey's a talented tight end. He's a guy that can make things happen for Texas State. But again, saw limited time on the field, so it's kind of hard to really put a finger on what he could do. But I saw him in practice on several occasions while he was at Louisiana, and he's definitely got potential to be a really solid tight end option. But going back to the receivers and the skill players as a whole, Lincoln Pear's a really good running back, right? He's a guy that can really make things happen. But outside of that, inconsistency at the quarterback position, you don't have a lot of size at wide receiver, and a big question mark at tight end. I just, again, I don't want to sound like the Debbie Downer and Mr. Pessimist, but I just don't see a ton to get excited about with this Texas State offense.
Well, things don't get much better on the offensive line. You do return 2 starters there in left tackle Dorian Strawn, who had 13 starts for them, and then the center Telek Lockett, who also had started all 13 games last year. You get a transfer at right guard in Lysander Mielo, I don't know, from Syracuse, Emeka Obigbo, from who played a little bit last year but wasn't like a full-time starter, and then right tackle Sully Burns appeared in games for them last year but didn't notch a start. So they were sparingly playing but not full-time guys. Zeke, as far as the offensive line goes, you've got your left tackle and your center. So in theory, you've got, I guess, the two most important spots on the offensive line have significant experience. Do you think they're going to be able to cobble together the rest of the spots on the line?
Yeah, so this is a great time to plug that we're having Phil Steele on the show. As we sit here, we're going to have him on next week. It's July 31st. He'll be on next week. Not certain when that episode is going out. But I say this to say, question for Phil Steele: what does he see in this offensive line that I certainly don't? He has this as the second best, or jointly the second best offensive line group in the conference. I said at nausea or at length earlier, I think the running back room is going to be good. I think the wide receiver room is going to be good. I think the quarterback room is going to be good. Again, not great, but good. This offensive line can undo all of that. As you said, Brian, with Lockett and Strawn, you have, in theory, 2 real bedrock guys at arguably the 2 most important positions. But outside of that, we're looking at a lot of inexperience. And inexperience is always going to worry me. And again, I will bang this drum forever. Number 1 running back, a guy who can sustain a full season's worth of touches, and offensive line. Those are probably the 2 most important positions where you need experience. And the lack of that gives me a lot of worry. And so I will not be there for the Phil Steele episode. So please, I implore both of you to figure out what it is he's seeing or what he's hearing about this group that I'm clearly missing.
Matt, what are your thoughts on the offensive line, and if they can keep, I guess, Luster, if he's the quarterback that they go with, upright, and create running lanes for Burrell and Pear and all these other running backs?
I hope that whoever ends up playing quarterback for Texas State has a really good insurance policy.
Yikes.
I hope he has a really good insurance policy. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, you return 2 starters from last year. I mean, the offensive line was solid last year. They weren't, great, but they certainly weren't bad with that 8-5 team. If I look at the numbers, I think Jordan McLeod was sacked 20 times last year, maybe more, maybe less. But again, it's a decent group. It's nothing to write home about. But again, I think it's just going to come down to my big thing with their offense is going to be the lack of skill players. Lincoln Pear has bounced around the Sun Belt Conference, right? Arkansas State, Georgia State, Texas State. He loves the state schools. The only one he didn't get to play at was App, but we'll see what he's able to do. When we believe he's going to be a featured back finally, in his Sun Belt career. But again, the offensive line, I'm in the same boat as the skill players. I just don't have confidence that they're built for success. In 2025.
I want to jump in before we get too far removed from this. Never played for Georgia State, I don't believe.
Did he not?
Did I dream that?
I'm looking at his profile on Texas State's website. It says he's been there at Texas State since 22 and did 2 years at Arkansas State.
Yeah, I think he went straight from Arkansas State to Texas State.
Oh, did I get him and Tucker Grad confused?
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay.
Hey, big, both good white boys that can run.
Yeah. Okay.
Short, hefty white guys.
Wow, that's really wow. Okay.
But maybe we
Brian, go ahead. Let's move on.
We all look the same, don't we, Matt? We all look the same. All right. So anyway, so defensively, there's not a ton of returning production either. 2 returning starters from last year, Khalil Alexander, the defensive end, and Ryan Nolan, the strong safety, come back from last year. Phil Steele, again, Matt, Zeke and I said this on the last episode. Phil Steele is very bullish on a lot of teams that even us 3 on the episodes that we've done have been like, all right, pump the brakes. He has them defensively giving up almost 400 yards per game on defense this year. If you combine that with an offense that in theory is not going to reach that 36-point mark, I think there's a real reality check coming for this team.
Yeah. If their defense is going to give up 400 yards a game, they are in big trouble.
Again, and we're not the ones saying they're going to give up 400 yards a game. That's Phil Steele saying that.
Correct.
We're just relaying
that's a
the
guy
message.
That's a guy that knows more than I do.
Yeah.
But again, we harp on the defenses of the last couple of years because they had these great dynamic offenses and their defenses let them down on several occasions, which led to back-to-back 8-5 seasons. So if this defense continues to take another step back and you're giving up 400 yards consistently, we might be looking at Texas State as a 5-win team in 2025.
Yeah.
Which is just crazy to think about again after being 8-5 the last 2 years under GJ Kinne, where you continue to think, okay, well, maybe Texas State will continue to hang around and in their final year in the Sun Belt, maybe they could actually compete for the title. But if they're going to give up 400 yards a game in the Sun Belt, you're done.
Yeah.
So again, I'm struggling a little bit with the roster tonight because I don't have my Phil Steele magazine in front of me. It got lost in the move.
That's why you go digital.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna find it before our next episode, hopefully. If not, I'll just go buy another one. But yeah, it's one of those things where if that's truly the number that they end up giving up this season, it's going to be an even worse fall than even I thought 5 minutes ago for this Texas State team.
I think trying to pick silver linings so that we are not the Negative Nancy podcast as we tend to be.
Well, look, if you suck, you suck.
Here's the thing. The only silver lining I'm finding right now is that most of the projected starters, again, per Phil Steele, were on the roster last year. They're not unknowns to the team, to the coaching staff. That means something.
Continuity.
I don't know much. Continuity. That's got to be something. I
love
think
that continuity, baby.
Yeah. As has been the case for this team, or was the past 2 years, and as is another team in the mold, Arkansas State, that we've talked about. This is not a roster construction that is built for long or short-term success. This can win you games that you would not expect, but it will also lose you games that you do not expect, where you do not have a wealth of riches defensively. And again, I think that more so than the offensive line is going to hold this team back from being a really good group. With that said, nothing with that. I was trying. I was fishing. It's just
with that said, I'm done talking.
There. Let's look at the schedule now, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't know if this matters because GJ Kinne is an offensive guy. They do have a new offensive coordinator. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's good for this guy. He's got an easy job.
Yeah. He's getting a paycheck. Good for him.
All right. Good luck with your next promotion.
The schedule.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it, boys. I'll take the liberty of doing this. Season opener and bowl championship celebration against Eastern Michigan on August 30th. Then they go to the Alamo Dome to take on UTSA in the I-35 showdown before going out west to play Arizona State on TNT. College football on TNT. Who would have seen that coming?
I need Charles Barkley doing pregame.
Terrible. Texas State, you're terrible.
This Texas State offense is terrible. It's just terrible.
And then they come back to San Marvelous to welcome Nichols. Guys, could Nichols beat Texas State? I'm kidding.
I don't think so.
I'm kidding. I'm just throwing jabs. Troy for homecoming on October 11th before they go to Huntington to take on Marshall. Then they come back to San Marcos to welcome James Madison on a Tuesday night on national television on ESPN2. They back-to-back Western Conference, Western Division road games against Louisiana and Southern Miss before they return to San Marcos for back-to-back weekends against ULM and South Al to end the season.
That stretch from October 28th until November 15th.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Better you than me is what I have to say about that.
Brutal. Everybody say it with me. Look, I'm practicing as an English teacher. Let's work on phonics here. Everybody say brew.
Brew.
Tull.
Are you teaching high school freshmen phonics? Isn't that like a kindergarten thing? I think Brian's daughter is starting that this year.
I think my daughter knows how to pronounce brutal. And she's getting ready to turn 5. So again, not a ton of gimmies on the schedule. I think I can count a couple of gimmies, but also kind of the similar to the Georgia Southern episode we did. The thing that has happened with GJ Kinne the last couple of years is they look very good for a bit, and then it just sort of goes over the rail. So you're going to have a loss or two in here outside of the 3-game stretch that we just talked about with JMU, Louisiana, and Southern Miss, where you drop a game like a Georgia State or, one of those opponents where you're like, why did we lose to Old Dominion? Like, or why did we lose to, Sam Houston State? Like, why are
Yeah.
we losing these games? And it's like, oh, because we like do the kind of same thing that Georgia Southern does, and we take our foot off the gas for certain games for seemingly no real reason. I'd like to add in the Sam Houston game, they blew a 22-point lead last year, so a 22-point first quarter lead. That was a fun one to keep up with. But this is what I'm saying, like they're going to drop a game where it's like they're probably going to lose to South Al in the season. Maybe they're going to lose a game like a Troy, an Arkansas State. One of these is going to be a loss mixed in with the tough games that they actually have to play as well. I think I've got them like 5-6 wins. I mean, this is an easy under for me because they'd have to win 8 games to cover the win total.
I've got them 6-6.
7-5. I think those first 4 games, anything really could happen. Like, I think there's a world. I don't think it is the most likely outcome, but I think there's an absolute world where Texas State comes out of that 3-1, possibly even 4-0. Again, I'm not saying,
dude, they're not beating Arizona State. Let's be real. Arizona State's a potential playoff team, and it's in Tempe. They're not beating Arizona State.
They come out of it 3-1. That's nearly halfway to. I mean, I've got them. I think I have them at 7. Floor is 4. Ceiling for me is 9. I have them at 7. What are you scoffing at?
9 wins.
The fact that the ceiling's at 9.
Yeah.
All right. Here, I'll give you the 9 winnable games right here. Eastern Michigan.
He's doing it again.
I know.
He's doing it again.
UTSA, Nichols, Arkansas State, Troy, Marshall, Southern Miss, ULM. Oh, that's 8. I miscounted.
Matt, you know how like in the George Clooney Batman movie, he's like trying to resist poison ivy the whole time, and then eventually he just kind of gives in and like, she gets him under his spell. That's Zeke in Texas State. I don't know what he's gonna do next year. He may undergo withdrawals, like just not being able to like take this team and go, they're probably gonna win, like they could win 9 games. It's like,
okay.
Huh?
Zeke, you just went through the winnable games. How about I go through the losable games? Here we go.
Yep.
UTSA, Arizona State, Arkansas State, Marshall, James Madison, Louisiana, Southern Miss, ULM, South Al.
What did I say? I said my floor was 4. That gives them 3 wins. My floor is 4. I think we're pretty aligned there.
Matt, what's their ceiling? I guarantee it's not 9. Yeah.
If they have a great season, they're 8-4.
I think their ceiling is 7 regular season wins, and they beat a directional school
and still
in the bowl.
Still third place in the West. Like that's their ceiling. 3rd place in the West.
Yeah, this really isn't
Bravo.
the year. This really isn't the year to be like totally reloading, Like this would be a year. And I know you can't control those kind of things as a coach, but like if you port last year's team over to this year, I think the sky is basically the limit. But when you're starting over, you have 5 starters returning over an entire out of 22 positions on offense and defense. Like,
yeah,
I'm just like, this isn't the year to do that. Like, you're going to be in the middle of those teams in the West where it's like you're right there with Arkansas State or Troy or South Al. Like,
everybody has down years. Unfortunately for Texas State, they're going to be down on their last year in the Sun Belt.
And then we'll send them off on like a Viking funeral boat, and then someone will just shoot like a flaming arrow and just set the boat on fire.
Send them off to the Valhalla that is Pac-12 after dark.
Yep, and you guys can watch it on HBO Max or wherever they're going to be broadcasting those games. Paramount Plus,
the gas station television network.
If I'm pumping my gas one night and I look over and it's Texas State and Nick, I'm gonna be like, "What the hell's going on here?" I'm gonna be like Tim Robinson, and I think you should leave. What the hell?
What the
Just
hell?
be like staring at the screen like as hard as I can. What the hell? All right. So, any last minute thoughts as we sign off? It's just a terrible football team. It just is. It's a tough year to be bad in the Sun Belt. You just can't do it.
That's such a good Charles Barkley impression.
You just can't be bad
So
in the
good.
Sun Belt this year. It's just tough. There's too many good teams.
They're just terrible. Ernie, Kenny, shut up, Kenny, because you see, I'm tired of you
All
talking.
right, let's start signing
All right,
off.
yeah,
You can find
yeah.
me on
Let's
Twitter at Zeke Palermo,
kind of losing the plot.
ZekePalermo.
EMRO.
Dog, you were two in my head. You can see it right below my name. You can find all of our stats below our names. You can also find the show on Twitter at Warm Weather Fans. Please tweet at the show. You can also email us, warmweatherfans@gmail.com. We want to hear what you say. Texas State fans, let us know what you think of this team and what you're looking forward to in the Pac-12.
Shout out to Zeke Palomero.
Rafael Palmeiro's brother. Matt, go ahead.
You can find me on social media at Miguez Matt, as always.
You can find the show obviously on X at Warm Weather Fans. We will be having Phil Steele on, as Zeke mentioned earlier. Send us questions to that email address. If they are legitimate questions, we will ask, or I will ask. Matt, I still am unconfirmed whether you're going to be able to make it. Probably not, right? All right. I can ask Phil Steele those on the air. As always, you can find me on X at Watch the Stone. That has been Matt Miguez. That has been Zeke Palmetto. This is Brian Stone signing off to the Warm Weather Fans Sunbelt Podcast.